We're in autumn now, and you are, as they say, in autumn of your life.
Yes, it's quite amusing, really, because in the past, always said negatively, like you're in the autumn, that's the end before the winter of old age. But I don't feel it that way at all, because autumn is a beautiful time of year, and it's a time of harvest. It's where you reap what you sowed in your life. So it's positive, not negative. That's how I see it anyway.
Peter, you're 70 now, soon to be 71. What do you think about your 70s?
Well, many years ago, I had an old friend, like really old. She was in her 90s. And I asked her on one occasion, which was the best years of your life? And she thought about it for a while, and she said 70s was the best. And I said, why is that? And she said, because by the time you get to 70, you've achieved everything you're going to, and you can just sit back and enjoy day by day. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to worry about other people. You just manage your life how you want. And she said after 80, it gets more difficult physically. But 70s, you probably have reasonable health if you've lived well, and you've got everything to look forward to. And I thought, I wonder. So now, arriving at that time, I pretty much agree. It's a good time. All the emotional highs and lows have dropped out of life. All the drives that push you to do this and achievement and all that is just not there. It's not like it's negatively not there. If you lived a full life, it's just not there anymore. So you can wake up each day and look out and see the beauty of the world and be happy.
Yeah, the same friend also said something about crystallization. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, that was another comment that she made. And I was only in my early 20s at that time when she told me this. And it was very significant later. But she said that once a person gets to about mid-30s, their personality begins to crystallize. And that means it starts to form habits and it starts to become less fluid and more rigid. And as you get older, it becomes more and more rigid. And she said by the time you get to 60, if you haven't become aware of this and you haven't done anything about it, you're pretty much stuck, just like a crystal. A crystal will grow, but very, very, very slowly. And at a certain point, it's totally fixed. And for me, I didn't really understand it being only early 20s. But once I got into the 30s, particularly late 30s, I started to see for myself certain patterns of thought was emerging. And I thought, that's what she said. And just being aware of those patterns is all you need to do. If you don't have to analyze them or go through therapy or anything, just have to be aware that you see the patterns forming. That's all that's necessary to stop the crystallization. Then you can grow old and remain fluid, because crystallization is death. The more fixed you become, mentally, the emotionally, the more fixed you'll become physically. And there's only one thing that comes at the end of that, it's decay and death.
Do you notice anything in yourself, physically and mentally? by getting older?
Well, there's a physical change for sure. There's certain things happen. I've had a lot of experience with severe diseases, and everything has a little toll. But I don't live in pain. I can't force my body to do things it doesn't want to do now, which I've been able to do all my life. Climb a mountain. Yep. Too bad if you're tired. It doesn't work anymore. Mentally, much calmer. Life is much calmer for me. Much, much calmer. It's more leveled out. All the ups and downs have gone. I don't miss them. Because the ups are just the opposite of a down. They're not actually something of their own. The middle of just living calmly is a very nice way to live. No stress in it. And sure, there's times when you notice things are happening, but a lot of things that people go on about, like I can still read books without glasses. I've got near perfect hearing. I'm doing pretty good. I'm not. That part of that is because I've lived in the natural world most of my life, I think. The noise and bustle and stress of high-powered lives doesn't do you any good in that way.
Do you do anything specifically to keep your intellect sharp?
Yeah, you've got to keep your curiosity. And that's the bit where this crystallization comes in, because as you crystallize, you'll lose that curiosity if you're not careful. The curiosity is, I wonder what this is. I wonder what that is. I want to know what's happening over there. What's this new thing? Not that you have to do anything about it, but it keeps you aware of the world that's going on around, even if you're not in it. And that's where the modern connection to the internet is an amazing thing, because there's heaps of garbage on there. But if you want to find the good stuff, it's there too. So I read a lot of books, and I watch stuff and listen to stuff, and it keeps me aware that I'm in a world where all these events are happening. I don't feel isolated at all, even though I live in a very distant place compared with most.
What would you say about comfort and old age?
Comfort kills you slowly, but it does.
Why?
Because it's also part of the alertness. I mean, for instance, where we live here in the mountains, the winters are extremely cold. And you can't sort of wake up in the morning and switch on the central heating, because there isn't any. You wake up in the morning, it's cold, and you have to accept that. And I found that, contrary to all the discussions, cold is good for the body, not bad for it, because it pushes it a little bit, And all the soft, comfortable things. I mean, I like to have a nice soft bed. I've got older bones, but I still sit on stone steps, sit on the ground, lean against trees. And all these things are very, very little, but they keep you a little bit flexible and aware of the surroundings in a way that the very comfortable thing doesn't. It takes your awareness away.
Do you do any practices like meditation, yoga, stretching, anything like that?
No.
Why not?
I don't think they're necessary. I think if you move around in an environment like this, and you sit on the stone steps and on the ground, and you chop wood and carry water and do some gardening, and what do you need to do extra for? It's enough.
What would you say about ageism?
Well, it goes both ways, ageism.
What way?
A lot of young people think old people are, stupid or thick or whatever, or no use. But a lot of old people also think young people don't know anything. And I learned that lesson when I went to university in my 40s, and I found myself in lecture theatres full of people who were only 18. And I had to get over that, because I realised that some young people are very interesting and they have a lot to offer. And the idea that young people know nothing is just as ridiculous as saying as old people are useless. So ageism is a thing that we could do without.
Well, is this one of your favourite spots? What happened here?
Well, I was walking along here one day and I saw this tree on fire and it had been burning for a couple of weeks. And I figured that it was struck by lightning, and because of its size, it was just burning and burning. And this is all that's left. And I think the tree is probably several hundred years old, or it was. And that was its fate.
What lesson did you derive from that?
Who knows why things happen? Who knows why this tree certainly didn't do anything wrong. It was just a victim of circumstance. And I think relating to age, that's what happens. You can wake up one day and next day you're gone. Just like this tree. That's why you have to make the most of the life you've got, not worry about the next one.
What would you say about youth worshipping culture?
It's totally ridiculous. That's all it is, because eventually all those young people are going to get old. The truth of it is that if you live long enough, you'll get old. One thing you can see now, if you look on YouTube, you see there's a lot of people in their 80s and 90s now who are speaking out about some of the events going on in the world because they're too old to lose their jobs or get cancelled or imprisoned for their views. And those voices are worth listening to. One I can think of who's been doing it for a long time is Professor Noam Chomsky. He's in his mid-90s and he's still speaking out about totalitarianism and stuff. And so those people are valuable. So everyone's valuable. So yeah, I think if the time comes for me where I really get in big trouble, I've got two routes. One is to go to Switzerland and take the euthanasia, and the other is to move to a country where people have some respect for elders and need some money, and I'll pay them to look after me. If it comes to that, I don't expect you to do it. I think it's terrible if there's an age gap in a partnership and the older one expects the younger one to look after them. I don't think that's going to work at all. So yeah, I would look out for that. At the moment I'm doing fine, but who knows? You just don't know. So many people I've known in my life who've died before they got to 70. It seems to me that the longevity argument of the medical establishment is not working. If anything, people are on average dying younger than they used to. Many reasons for that.
What do you think that is?
A lot of it is stress. Life is a lot more stressful now for various reasons. But I consider a great deal of it to be diet. And that comes down to the discussion about nutrient level. Reports show, scientific investigations show that the average diet now for many people in the world, 60% less nutrients than 50 years ago. And so, say my parents' generations, who many of them lived into their mid to late 80s, they grew up on nutrient-dense food because there wasn't all this thing. Also, much less chemical pollution. There was no plastic. So I think a diet has a lot to do with it. Small but nutrient dense. So here we have these tiny little apples, wild, high density. There's probably as much apple nutrient in this little guy as one of them huge ones you buy in the supermarket. So these are free.
Well, here we have a flock of sheep. A shepherd dog looking at us. What do you think about sheep, Peter?
I really like them. I grew up with sheep on a sheep farm in New Zealand. When I was about 4, I had a pet sheep. It followed me everywhere I went. Yeah, I think they're nice creatures.
What was the name?
Betty.
What happened to Betty in the end?
No.
Somebody's Christmas dinner?
Don't think so, but you know, when you're a kid, you don't notice certain things, especially when there are a lot of sheep. But yeah, I think, you know, they're kind of treated as though they're stupid, but they're not. They're all little individuals too. And these ones here, you know, they have a pretty good life. They never end up behind a fence. And the big dog looks after them, so they don't have to worry about the bears. Don't know what the crows are doing around though.
तू ही तो जन्नत मेरी, तू ही मेरा जुनू, तू ही तो मन्नत मेरी, तू ही रूह का सुकून, तू ही अखियों की ठंडक, तू ही दिल की है दस्तक। और कुछ ना जानूं मैं, बस इतना ही जानूं, तुझ में रब दिखता है यारा, मैं क्या करूं। तुझ में रब दिखता है यारा, मैं क्या करूं। सजदे सर झुकता है यारा।
Next step is to pee on what's left. You either live the life that's laid out for you by others and by your community, your society, your country, whatever, or you make your own road. And that's where you come to the what philosopher Martin Heidegger called a wood path, which is a path of the woodcutter, which goes into the forest, and it becomes more and more vague and less easy to follow until eventually there's no path at all. And that's where you begin. That's where your path begins. And as Nietzsche said in another place, there's no the way. There's my way and there's your way, but there's no way to follow. In essence, you follow the wood path, and then when you get to the end of the wood path, you're on your own.
Yeah. Would you say that's also the unknown?
Well, it is unknown, yes, because there's no path there. Yeah. But that's where the new starts. That's where the moment starts, the present. That's where you learn for yourself. You make your own pathway through your life then.
Do you think that relates to what Nietzsche says, become who you are?
Definitely. Yep. And the difficulty is that everybody is trying to lay out a path for you and say, follow this or do this or become that. And the thing is, it doesn't work. You end up with regrets or frustrations or things you didn't want to do or a position you didn't want to be in.
How is it for you that me, your wife, goes off and have these adventures and you stay behind?
Well, I think it's fine. I think we knew this would come about eventually from the beginning if we stayed together. There would come a time when I wasn't going to be doing that stuff anymore. Yeah. So yeah, no, I don't have any problem with it at all. Yeah. Good on you. You got to make the most of it. No point sitting around when you don't have to. Would you say you're more content now than, say, 10 years ago? Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Why do you think that is?
It's hard to pin it down, but it's like I don't have to achieve anything anymore. I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to be anything. just be, just exist. And There's one thing, one secret of old age, if you know how to use it, is you can get away with a lot when you're old.
Like what?
All the obligations. If you don't feel like doing something, you just say no, and nobody holds it against you because you're old. And sometimes you don't feel like doing something when you're younger and you go, oh, yeah, but I suppose, I should make the effort. I don't feel that anymore. Don't have to. I could do what I want to do, but I don't do anything I don't want to do. That's one of the advantages of age, that you can't understand till you get there.